Hello everyone and welcome back to another episode of
Gato.
My name is Hans
I'm Edward.
and we're your hosts for now and forevermore.
Or unless the Reaper comes and gets us in our sleep.
Well, with the way we're both feeling today, it kind of does feel like he might make an early entrance.
Exactly.
To our regular listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. It's lovely to have you with us. If you are new to the Gettle podcast, welcome to one of the internet's best variety podcasts that deals with gaming, entertainment, technology, and lifestyle, all wrapped up in a wonderful...
I'm blank.
Well, we're experiencing a lot of lag today, so let's go with slow. It's wrapped up in a nice, wonderful bow of slow. Welcome to Gettle episode 39. Yes, right. We are almost in our dirty 40s. And for those of you who have been listening, you know very, very well that we have a hashtag NSFW section, which is delicious. So welcome to episode 39. It's actually going to be a fairly short one because we are currently running under a very tight embargoed schedule and we're doing everything we can to meet everything. But by the time you see this, our reviews of the Xbox Series X will be out and available. We will, as always, link to the content we make. I spent a lot of time on this video, so I would appreciate any likes, subs, and comments. But to actually get into, what do I think? So, Xbox Series X is the newest next generation console from Microsoft. It's part and parcel of a dual console strategy that the company is going for with the new generation, that being Xbox Series X and Xbox Series S. Now, we only received Xbox Series X for review, which is great because that is the more powerful of the two. But just a quick, catch up with regards to S. It's essentially the more budget version of the X in the sense of it shares the same silicon. So games developed for X will run on S. It just has slightly lower specs, meaning that where X is aiming at 4K, 60 frames per second, or 120 frames per second, the S is aiming more for 1080p, 1440p at 60 to 120 frames per second. I actually think that the S is a fantastic console given its price point. I think it's an awesome entry into the Xbox ecosystem. Mainly because, and I know that I'm now just speaking about the ecosystem, but this is what Microsoft is doing for this generation. We're so used to consoles being these finite devices. You buy one, you play on it, and then come the end of the generation, that's it. You move on. You get another one. You get the newest one. And you don't really worry about, games from the past and so on and so forth. Now, of course, to PC gamers, this is, y'all be shaking your heads and being like, bitch, I'm not going to lose any of my old games. Because, PC gamers have never had to worry about that. You play your game, and regardless of how old the game is, you can continue playing it like decades old. I mean, like 20, 30 years ago, it'll still run today, even if it has to be emulated in the latest version of Windows, whatever the case is. Now, consoles have never had that luxury, mainly because console manufacturers have sort of forced, I guess it's a bit of a forced obsolescence, not quite in the Apple direction, but, in many respects, that's what they've done in order to keep up with the times. Anyway, long story short, Microsoft is not doing that anymore. They have invested heavily into backwards compatibility, as well as creating a service known as Game Pass. So, although these new consoles are coming, and they really are fantastic, and I will speak about the Series X in just a little bit more in detail, the fact of the matter is that if you're buying into the Xbox brand, you're actually buying into the ecosystem, not so much the products anymore. So that's quite it's a fundamental change in the way that, Microsoft specifically is handling things. Where Sony and Nintendo are still very much doing the whole generational thing where you can't play backwards compatible titles on their platforms, with the exception of PS5, which apparently is somewhat backwards compatible with PS4. Xbox is like, yeah, cool, play whatever you want from the original all the way through to the latest games. They'll all work, all even enhanced automatically without developers doing anything, with auto HDR, 4 times anisotropic filtering, faster load times. It really just is an exceptional experience if you've been with the Xbox brand for a very long time. And if you're new to the Xbox brand, I still think you would benefit. More so if you, let's say, coming from PC, or you want a PC, but you can't afford one right now. So therefore, maybe get an entry-level Xbox or the X, and then eventually move on to PC. That's the beauty of Microsoft's ecosystem. They're not fussed where you play, just as long as you're in the ecosystem and paying your monthly sub. Now, onto the hardware. Series X it's a phenomenal looking machine. It's a lot smaller than I thought it would be. It's 30 centimeters tall and about 15 centimeters in depth and width. And it's premium feeling. It's solid. It has a matte black casing, which unfortunately is a bit of a fingerprint magnet. But then again, aren't all premium devices fingerprint magnets? I mean, I have a review laptop here at the moment, and that thing, let me tell you, is more of a fingerprint magnet than even the Series X. So, I mean, anything that's really black and matte, for the most part, does pick up oils from your hands, unless, of course, it's that rubbery, texture. Anyway, it's beautiful design. It's very monolithic. It doesn't stand out, which for me is something I like. A lot of people might not. They might want like a showpiece, something that you can see in the corner, or whatever. Not so much for me. I like my stuff to blend in. For those of you who have listened long enough, or for those of you who know me personally, I don't like to RGB all the things. Yes, sure, I have hue lights all over my house, and I do use them for my video, for cool backgrounds and stuff, but I don't want my devices to have RGB. It's just not something that I'm into. Of course, everybody differs. So with that in mind, the Series X is just very subtle. It's understated, and it belies the fact that there's immense power underneath the surface. And I love it for that respect. Now, look, I actually had this discussion with Edward earlier this week, and he helped me sort of influence my video review. There is no need, in my opinion, to talk about specs. This is a console first and foremost. So yeah, sure, you can talk about teraflops, you can talk about, gigabytes per second, blah, blah, blah. But at the end of the day, it's not a PC. It's not something that's upgradable. So what do the specs really matter at the end of the day? It's more so, what can the console do for you right now in terms of your experience with it? And, in that perspective, it's phenomenal. The fact of the matter is that the moving to NVMe, which both PlayStation and Xbox are doing for this generation, is a night and day difference in terms of your games. It just increases load times to a quarter, sometimes a tenth of what they were experienced before. And, Microsoft actually has a name for what they're calling their NVMe drivers and APIs and stuff like that, and the SSD, and they're calling it velocity architecture. Now, interestingly enough, I haven't experienced a game with velocity architecture yet. Even though I've been in this review period for a couple of weeks, and that's just because it's too new. Developers haven't quite grasped it yet. So, there's nothing to actually show off if that'll make a difference. And I have a feeling we're going to see something very similar when the PlayStation 5 arrives. Even these games like Miles Morales and the new Demon's Souls, I, as good as they'll be, and I'm not saying that they won't be good, I think they'll be excellent. And they really do have short loading times. What I'm saying is that we're going to look at the games that are coming out at the end of 2020 and compare them to 2021 and be like, wow, there's actually a huge difference here when a game has been developed for a system versus if it hasn't. Anyway, Quick Resume is probably my favorite feature of the system. Edward knows this. I've been blasting it into his ears for like the last couple of weeks. Nothing beats opening a game that you've previously played, and it just loads within less than 15 seconds. Actually, as part of my video review, I noticed that most of the games loaded in like 8 seconds, 9 seconds. And it's because I didn't time it before. It was just a perception thing. So it actually blew my mind that they were actually double the speed to what I thought they were, And it's just phenomenal. It's a kind of cool thing where you don't think twice anymore about changing the game you're playing if somebody wants to play online with you. So, like in the video, I demonstrate how I receive a message from somebody to play Apex. So I just switch the game. I don't even bother saving the current game that I was playing because I don't have to. Quick Resume takes care of everything for me. Something I forgot to mention in the video, which I want to mention now, is what's even more impressive about Quick Resume is that it's not reliant on power. So you can reboot the console, you can turn the console on and off, you can even completely pull out the power, and Quick Resume will still work. So it's really incredible, you know. I could keep going about the speed and stuff like that, but I mean, I feel like I've said enough. It's a huge difference, and I'm very keen to see if Sony's implementation is as good as Microsoft's, because we all know the PlayStation 5 has a fast SSD. But I'm really wondering if that's how much of a difference that's actually going to make. You know, it might just be like seconds. I mean, at the very least. You know, the other selling point of the console is frames per second. Now, I've been a console peasant for a very long time. I used to be a PC master race, and it just honestly became too expensive in the grand scheme of things. I used to upgrade once a year, and then, you know, eventually when graphics cards started being 6, 7, 8,000 rand, it was just like, well, you know, I'd rather just buy a PlayStation, which is going to last me 5 to 7 years, instead of this graphics card that I feel the need to replace once a year because, you know, PC elitist, got to be the best, you know?
Yeah.
So also, it happened around the same time as my switch to Apple Mac, which I will never ever go back on, because honestly, there is something about working on OS X in terms of productivity that just Windows just doesn't have. But that's a story for another day. And so I've been playing consoles for the better part of a decade now. I mean, I've always had consoles in my life, but I just mean as my primary gaming machine. It's been a console for over a decade. And so, you know, for me, I'm excited to have these machines in my life because I don't have a gaming PC. Anyway, sorry, I'm distracting from the fact that I wanted to speak about, which is frames per second. So because I'm a console peasant, I've never had to worry about frames per second because most consoles only do like 30 frames per second. Very few reach 60 frames per second. I've mentioned it before. I've actually featured in one of our previous episodes. I'm still reviewing a really cool laptop, a Razer laptop, and it has a 144 megahertz screen. Now, let me tell you, playing games at a really high frame rate is amazing. It's like my eyes have been opened. I see the light. I understand why the PC elitists are the way that they are, you know, and why they forego 4K resolutions for 1440p, so because they can run it at 200 frames per second, you know. And, you know, with that in mind, the Series X is capable up to 120 frames per second. And out of all the games that I could try, only 2 currently support that at the moment. Just in the preview phase. Of course, at launch, there'll be many more games. And those were Dirt 5 and Gears of War 5. Now, I'm not allowed to speak about Dirt 5 because Codemasters are... I don't really want to say what they are, but yes. So they're being difficult. Let me rather say it like that. So I will speak about my experience with Gears 5 rather. What I will say was incredible is that even just the change from 30 to 60 was enough. You know, so that alone to me made a huge difference, especially in a game like Sea of Thieves, which was recently updated. And I, you know, it's one of the few games I play a lot. So I could literally see the difference, and it's just how smooth it is now. It's just fantastic. As you can see, I'm now becoming a frames per second person. You know, I do feel that 120 is probably a little bit more niche. It's a little bit more reserved for people who are more interested in like twitch reflexes. So it's really only going to benefit you if you're really into the first-person shooter crowd, you know, or that kind of a thing where every millisecond counts. If you're not into that, which I'm not really into, you can tell why then I would settle for 60, you know. But having said that, I played the Gears 5 multiplayer at 120, and it is something. Let me tell you, part of me kind of wants all the games to be 120 now. So it's just the fluidity is next level. It's difficult to explain. You kind of have to see it. So you know, if you take the hardware into perspective and the way that the console looks and what it's really about, you know, that is just generally console gaming and playing games for the next 5 to 7 years in the same machine. I think Microsoft have done a fantastic job. It is silent. Honestly, you don't even hear a peep from it. In terms of heat, my bloody Xbox One X which was just an idle mode, was hotter than the Series X. I mean, that should tell you all you need to know about this new machine.
Yeah.
So, and yet the new machine is like, what, I don't know, it's like 40 times more powerful or even more. I don't know, something ridiculous. But yeah, it's an excellent machine. Do I think it's worth 11,999 Rand? Right now, for me, I would say yes if you can afford it. If you have a 1X and money is a bit of an issue, I would say wait, purely because there's nothing that's taking advantage of the system right now. So yes, you could buy it now and then really enjoy the speed improvements, which by all means I can tell you are worth paying for, just that alone. But in terms of actually seeing what the system can do, we're quite away from that still. And that'll go for PS5 as well. Just putting it out there. This is not just an Xbox Series issue. So right now, yes, if you're an early adopter and you've got the cash, go for it. If you want to see how things play and you're maybe more of a PC person, consider the S as your gateway into the product. Alternatively, just wait a bit, give it about a year, score on some discounts later on, and goodness knows there'll be games that actually take advantage of the systems later on. So from me, it's highly recommended. I love it. Xbox is my primary platform. As I mentioned before, I'm a console only gamer. But the thing is, with the recent gaming PC laptop that I've been using, I would actually consider getting a gaming laptop. And that's just one more reason why I would stick with Xbox, because it means that when I play on my Xbox now, and I've already seen this, and this is the most remarkable thing, is I can just open up the laptop and continue on from a game using Play Anywhere. And it's just Microsoft have done a great job with this ecosystem, really. And I know we don't have xCloud in South Africa yet, but I've only heard good things abroad, where people are doing the same things, but they're using their phones or tablets. So yeah, it's amazing. Edward, I mean, I know, I'm sorry, I've just been speaking now the entire time, but unfortunately, we only received one Xbox for review, and I'm the one that got to do it. So Edward's only seen
unfortunately.
it. But Edward will be getting his own Series X come launch next week. So you're welcome, everybody.
Then we can waffle on about it for an entire 2 hours.
For even longer, yeah. I mean, look, it's honestly a really exciting time. There's actually a game as well. And now I'm leading into Edward's territory. He's not allowed to speak about it, so you'll hear about it next week. So he's actually under embargo as well for a very, very, very special title that I am actually going to stream this weekend. So if you do hear this on the Friday, when the episode comes out, do look out for my socials, because I'm genuinely so looking forward to this game, because I thoroughly enjoyed the previous two. I think I'm allowed to say it. It's Assassin's Creed Valhalla. So if anybody's interested, our full review will be dropping next week, thanks to Edward, and I will be playing some of it this weekend. So definitely check that out. We just can't speak about the game. Hey, Ed?
yeah. We can't say anything about it pretty much.
Actually, I know by the time this airs, the embargo would have lifted already. So we've actually received a whole lot of embargo updates throughout this Xbox experience, and some of them have just been awful. And I don't mean that and this is not really Microsoft's fault. So Microsoft has given us code to a lot of games and services and things that are not quite available just yet to consumers, and with that comes NDAs from those other platform holders. And so what's happened is, like, for example, I had basically finished my video, and then all of a sudden I get this email telling me, well, this publisher doesn't want their footage of their game in any media, whether it's written or video. And I'm like, that's literally a full section of my video that I now have to redo. So when you do hear this, I will be running on hours of sleep.
Literally.
And if you're watching this, forgive me for the way that I look. It's been a very, 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 very long night, but so far so good, and we seem to be on track to meet embargo times.
Gotta hustle, so...
Yeah, gotta hustle.
What can you do? Yeah.
We don't have much more from a preview perspective this week, so we're just going to go straight into some content. Yes, gosh. I was on YouTube. Oh, well, we're always on YouTube, y'all. Like and subscribe. So
Yeah.
it's got to do. So a couple of weeks back, we spoke about. Okay, I know we're not in the NSFW section, but we spoke about sex toys and how there could be liabilities in terms of security. Well, obviously the algorithms are at work because in my YouTube recommended feed, I had this thing of this BBC reporter called Stacey Dooley, and how she went to South Korea to explore an issue that they're having. And it has to do with spy cams and spyware, but like, the physical kind. So nobody's hacking your bank accounts or anything digitally. It's actually what is around you. And it was absolutely frightening. So as I said, she goes to South Korea. She goes and she speaks to this organization whose job is actually to go to motels and find spy hardware that people have in the room, which I just have to add is often broadcasting 24/7. So it's the most, really, it's the most frightening thing. Now, they didn't specify if it was hotels and stuff as well, but it really just seems motels. So obviously for CD hookups and stuff, like a place you just go, you take somebody, you pump them, and then you leave. Now, the thing about it, what was really, I guess, what was shocking to me is just that on average, there are about 30 or 40 spy cams in each of these rooms, just on the norm. And it's that crazy stuff. So like I have a water bottle in front of me right now. Now imagine going into this room, or rather, let me use the example that they had there. Is she walks into this room and there's actually cream for her hand, and and it's just one of the few unassuming objects in the room. You don't think anything of it. And eventually, after they're speaking about it and they're going through the things, she actually does find that there was a tiny pinhole camera right in one of the words, and the camera is good enough to pick up your body. So like if you're totally naked, like I cream myself after I shower. Now I'm just imagining I stay in this motel, I go and I shower, and there I am being broadcast to Korean internet users. You could see my junk, like.
Wow. Probably at a premium as well.
Yes, this is exactly it. So it's this massive money-making thing where people are exploiting people who don't know any better. Anyway, it's not to make people like frightened now. This is just mainly a major issue that South Korea is going through because they don't really have any other major issues, as far as I'm aware. Anyway, I mean, they are rolling out, I think it's like 10 gigabit internet to everybody soon. So that's one of the reasons, I guess, why they can do stuff like this. But it's just. Look, we will link to the video. Go and watch it and have your mind blown at just how incredible A, the tech is that is now available to consumers, and B, to be careful if you're gonna do naughty things that you shouldn't be doing, especially if you're in a relationship.
Yep.
Now, with South Korea on the mind, moving on to the topic of influencers. So, I don't consider myself an influencer. Purely because I just feel my online followings are quite small. But Vamers does really well. And so I guess in many respects, I could be the face of Vamers. And then, of course, in terms of the podcast, both Edward and I are faces of Gettle. All right. Now, for the most part, influencers have been real. Right?
Yeah.
There's been no question as to whether or not... yeah, for the most part. There's been no question about whether or not influencers are real. Well... For anyone who is familiar with anime culture and more specifically, like, the android singing girls, I've forgotten her name now. Edward, if you could help me out here. There's even a
Project
Sega
Melody.
game. There we go. Yeah, there we go.
No. That's Hatsune Miku.
There we go. Hatsune Miku. Thank you. So she's totally digital, and she has the most incredible following and merchandise and shows and etc. Well, it just so happens that there is now a complete market of computer generated influencers, and they're making real money. Basically, I'm like, where can I sign up to make up money for not actually doing anything with products.
For not existing.
Yeah, because I mean, I know I said just now that, Edward and I were not influencers, but we do get a lot of product, okay, because of Vayman's, and we review and stuff like that. So, we do also, we'll show the stuff on our socials, and sometimes it gets some engagement, things like that. But to do it digitally, like, is this easier? Because it's hard work doing it in real life.
Well, now you have to code. I guess I think it's more work.
Maybe if you're not good at coding, I guess, right? But maybe if you have like a super powerful, PC Master Race computer, and you have like your Unreal Engine totally specced out, who knows? Maybe it could be easier. I don't know. It's just interesting. It's fascinating, and it makes you think of movies that predicted the future, like these AI people that you walk around and they target you specifically, and they talk to you. Well, this is literally where we're at. We're getting to the point where, I mean, you look at, Blade Runner, look at your phone, and it's so powerful that your phone could literally probably project something like that onto a wall next to you.
Yep.
So yeah, that's where we're headed. I know I'm talking the whole time now, but I'm just going to get through my topics because I haven't prepared any show notes and I'm just going off memory. So forgive me.
That's fine. You've been busy.
Oh my gosh, so busy. So busy. Okay, so this was a pretty cool one. Now we all know about reflective surfaces. For the longest time I have heard of people saying that to help combat climate change, we should have more reflective surfaces on the surface of the earth, to reflect heat back. Okay. That's partially true. It's partially true. Well, what's interesting about this new product that is being developed is that they're calling it a super white paint, which essentially will...
That's racist, bro.
No. Edward. Anyway, it was created by some engineers at Purdue University, and it's capable of keeping surfaces up to 18 degrees Fahrenheit cooler. So I think that's about 6 degrees cooler Celsius than normal.
Yeah,
and
it's about 6. Yeah.
It's absolutely incredible. And the reason why they call it super white is because unlike normal paints, or rather normal heat rejecting paints, which can bounce back about 80 to 90% of the sun's rays or the sun's heat, this super white paint can do over 95%. And they're saying that, like, in terms of practical benefits, for example, if you painted your roof with it, you wouldn't need an aircon in summer. That's how effective it is in terms of, reducing the heat in your home. And therefore, that obviously has a cascading effect, whereby, if you paint this on your roof, you then don't get air conditioning. If you don't have an air conditioner, you're not spewing any, whatever air conditioners spew into the air around you, or B, you're not using any electricity. And that's more important because electricity contributes to climate change, you see? So, they were talking a lot about it, and it's just very, very interesting. And also about the fact that they could make it quite cheap. So it's not even a difficult or expensive thing to get going. And all like we would really need to do to really help a lot is just paint all our building roofs and even tarmac. Imagine white roads. Okay, sure, that might not work really well because roads and tires are going to get dirty and whatever. But, tar roads are actually a great source of heat and global climate change because they absorb so much heat into the road, unnaturally so. So yeah, it was just a really cool point about super white paint, which Edward has now made me realize is really racist. But then again, you get Vanta black, so I mean that's really cool. Listen. That's how they should have made the Xbox, Vanta black, because then when you put your fingerprints on it, you won't see anything, not even your fingerprints.
But then if you look at it, you'll think your eyes are dying.
I would so dig a Vanta Black Series X.
Also,
just saying.
Imagine you shooting your review B-roll with the Vanta Black.
I wouldn't be able to. It wouldn't pick it up.
Exactly. Gosh.
Now moving on to something a little bit more serious. This one's got to do with coronavirus. Now, for the longest time, and we've actually touched upon it a little bit, is how it's been considered that the main means of spreading is coughing and droplets through coughing or sneezing or whatever the case is. Well, they've been doing a lot more research into it, and it turns out that what is actually the primary aspect of infection are aerosols that are left in the air after somebody talks, screams, shouts, coughs, or sneezes. So it's not just coughing or sneezing.
Breathing.
It's literally somebody could breathe in front of you with this, okay, and you'll get it. Of course, I mean, it's not like immediate. If there's, okay, let me, before I get into that. So it's got to do with the fact that the particles are small enough to become aerosols. Now, the dangerous part about aerosols is that they can actually hang around for hours at a time. So it's not like they're just there and then they fall, they disappear. They literally hang in the air. Now, the reason why they're doing this research is because they were wondering why school children were getting COVID, even though precautions were being taken. And so what they found is that a teacher speaking at the front of the class for approximately 2 hours, and assuming they have COVID-19, will actually produce enough aerosols to fill up an entire room within 2 hours, therefore infecting everybody in proximity or his proximity. Now, of course, masks help. So if he or she was wearing a mask, and of course if the students wear masks, it helps, but it doesn't take that aspect away completely. And so what they've done is they've taken this model and they've looked at it at different places. And this is why, for example, going to a bar, going to a restaurant, going out to a shop is currently putting you at risk. It might not seem like it, but imagine going to a small pub, right? Your local haunt, and it's full, and no one is wearing a mask because nobody thinks that they're going to get COVID. Now all you need is one person in that place, and let's assume they've got poor ventilation, right? That's a very, very big thing. And let's be honest here. Anyone who's been to a club or a pub or a cozy restaurant knows ventilation is at a minimum, all right? You take one person within about 2 to 3 or 4 hours, that one person, just from talking, not even shouting, not even screaming, just breathing and talking, has put enough COVID aerosols into the air to actually basically cover about 80% of the room.
That's crazy.
Yeah, so essentially, the reason why they were doing all of this research is just to illustrate, A, aerosols and COVID are a thing, and B, what you would need to do to prevent it. And obviously, of course, wearing masks helps, but B, it's less time in enclosed spaces like restaurants and shopping malls and that kind of a thing. If it's well ventilated, you should be okay. If it's not, you stand to be at risk. That's it. That's all that I really want to say about that.
So I just wanted to comment on the little animations you get when you scroll through the website. It's actually quite cool because they show how you get infected in the room, which is quite cool.
Yes, that's exactly. So and it's interactive.
Scary. It's super scary.
So go check out the link. Tell your loved ones and be careful out there. And as I said, you can never be too safe. Welcome to NSFW. Edward, take it away.
Okay, well, in terms of not being too safe, we all know how secure browsers can and cannot be, depending on what you do and how you browse.
Chrome.
Chrome, Internet Explorer, all those. So it turns out that even if you are in incognito, you are being tracked. Even if your browser says they'll send a do not track request to this website, you are still being tracked because a request is just that. It's a request. So it turns out that the vast majority of people, rather, let me put it this way, there are two camps of people. Those that do not care at all and those that think, or those that do care and think they are doing something,
like me,
but ultimately
deny
are
cookies.
not.
Deny.
I get, yes, pretty much. Deny all them bitches, you're still being tracked. So yeah, so I lost my train of thought. Basically, what it comes down to is the fact that Facebook and Google and all these tracking services, such as Oracle as well, they embed themselves around the internet in order to gather your advertisement details, in order to get your IP address and your info to advertise to you.
So this is how you literally browse Wish for like a cool USB drive or something, and then you end up going back to Facebook, and then it asks you, what new dildo do you want?
Yes, I sent you an image earlier this week.
Yes, that's.
Yes, it's pretty much exactly that. Like, do you want this two-sided dildo that turns into a fork for $2.99, free shipping?
Yes. Food plus pleasure.
And essentially, what it comes down to is that most of these sites, even though they claim they do not track you, or they do not track you when you go into incognito and when you go into private browsing mode, the scripts in the websites, that is any other website, still exists, and that script still activates your browser and all of this stuff. So in a new paper from New Media and Society, it was revealed that porn sites, okay, which is kind of what the NSFW segment is all about.
All of a sudden, Edward is sweating.
No, I don't care. So they themselves actually overwhelmingly embed tracking scripts from sites like Google, Facebook, as well as Oracle, which is super shady with your data, by the way. Oracle is one of the most biggest privacy offenders out there.
Why? Why are they doing this?
In order to get your ads? Yeah, for ads and analytics.
Of course.
That's how they make money. And so, in fact, out of about more than 22,000 websites analyzed by News Media and Society, they found that 93% of these websites, that's a huge ass number, had some form of third-party tracking. Now, they don't go into specifics about exactly which kind of third-party tracking it is, but they did say Google is the leader of the tracking. So there's a lot of Google script going. As well as, obviously, Oracle, which many websites have come out and said they'll never use Oracle as any kind of tracking again.
Wow.
Turns out many of them still do, which is quite surprising. Now, according to New Media and Society, the data extracted by the trackers include browsing configuration, your IP address, your unique advertising IDs. That's how you get the awesome Wish ads you mentioned.
Yeah.
And pretty much all. Oh, and also your vendor details, which is basically the laptop you're on, the phone you're using, any of that thing. They'll have it just by going to pornhub.com and clicking on something.
Just when you thought you were doing the right thing using a private browser.
Exactly. So obviously there are browsers and tools that circumvent this, such as last week we spoke about the Tor browser, which is one of the safest browsers you can find. Obviously that comes at the expense of convenience, because you have to retype everything. It saves nothing. And also, it should be noted that even if you use these browsers, your IP address is always visible to the website you visit. Always. So it's recommended that you also use a VPN if you care about that kind of thing. And
don't worry,
there are many out there.
A sponsored segment coming.
No. Blazefast.com or whatever it's called. Anyway, so the most curious thing about this is that both Google and Facebook have come out and said that they do not condone their scripts running on adult websites. With Google specifically saying that they do not allow Google ads and tracking on websites with adult content. Their tags for their ad services are not allowed to transmit personally identifiable information. But then again, why are they found there? Why have they been found in 93% of
No,
all adult
it's just
websites?
more along the lines of they're not enforcing it. So it's not allowed, but now they're not
Yeah,
going to
maybe.
make the effort to go and block all those sites when they should, because that just holds them as accountable.
The thing is, though, why can't they just put a blacklist on the domain then? You
Yeah,
know?
but
Like,
that's what I'm saying. They would have to
exactly.
go and do that, but they're not doing that because they're putting the onus on the website owners.
But
Then
see,
that,
that's,
it makes them clear of any guilt. But they're just as
yeah.
complicit.
Yeah, that's what I think as well. But anyway,
Anyway.
so if you are a real private person, just use a real private browser. Don't use Internet Explorer especially, and don't use any browser that still has
And
Adobe Flash Player.
definitely don't be clicking damn ads.
Yeah, that exactly. There we go. Because Hans is leading into a quite interesting topic. If you click on ads, especially nowadays, you might be subject to
Wait,
malware
hold on.
and attacks.
I've got to ask. I've got to ask. Do you ever click an ad?
Hmm.
Like honestly speaking.
No. I
Yeah,
think,
to the people who are listening or watching, do you guys click on ads?
yeah. So let us know, because I don't know. The thing is, if I have to recall ever clicking on an ad, it's always for a sponsored segment where I'm told what it's about and where this goes and what I need to do. Instead of just, oh, a Mitsubishi for sale for $60,000, I'm gonna click on that. Like,
It's weird because I never click on ads. I don't really go out of my way to not see them, although because I don't use ad blockers or anything like that, just because I'm on Safari all the time. But come to think of it, like, wow, I don't click on ads. Actually, no, well, that might not be entirely true. I think if I do happen to click on an ad, it's more so the Google promoted post, as
link.
in, you
Yeah,
search for something and then it comes up at the top. But I dislike doing that because a lot of the times it's not what you're actually looking for. It's some other
exactly.
company that is using SEO to boost their platform. And then if you do click, see, now this is where the whole thing of being savvy online comes into play. Because, like, my mom wouldn't know the difference. She would Google what she's looking for and she would just tap that first advert. And then, lo and behold, she's gone to a scammer's website, but she didn't know any better. Whereas I will always check the URL before even clicking through,
Yeah, so don't click on ads, number one. Even if you don't, just don't even think about it, because if you do, you might be subject to malware attacks. And it's especially rampant nowadays as Adobe Flash Player and as Internet Explorer is kind of falling away. Um, Mainly because these hacking groups are preying on old people and non-tech savvy people to infect their devices with all these kinds of weird data stealing viruses and ransomware, and they're making lots of money out of this. According to a report by Malwarebytes, which a cybercrime group by the name of Malsmoke, which is a stupid name, if I might be honest, have been placing malicious ads on adult theme websites for months now, especially this year.
Okay,
And
but come now. You are looking for problems if you are clicking on an ad on an adult site.
yes, that even
Come
more so
on.
than normal.
I mean,
Um,
what are you doing with your life? Okay,
exactly,
honestly.
exactly. Well, so Malwarebytes states that Malsmoke's attacks most commonly take the form of malverts, which is malicious adverts on mid-tier portals, which basically
Oh gosh,
means
another term. It's horrible.
exactly. It's basically whenever you browse through videos. So don't click on the videos, but the ads you click
Now,
while
look,
browsing.
I'm curious about that. Now, what about the ones that just open up without you even doing anything?
See, those ones are usually injected via script by the website themselves. So if you go to a reputable adult website like Pornhub, I guess, You should be fine when those
safe
open up.
ads. Is that what you're
Yes,
saying?
those are the so-called white ads if you have an ad blocker.
Okay.
Um,
Look, let's be real here. I mean, Adobe Flash Player has been a menace for years now. It's like 5 years too late to be put to pasture already. It should have been done years ago. Now, I'm a little bit dismayed to see that, obviously criminals are now using HTML5 and other forms of pushing malicious code onto devices. Because that's just, we all thought that with the downfall of Flash Player, we'd all be safe. But yeah, of course, as we innovated, as the normal people innovated, so do the criminals. That's awful. Can we just speak about this other thing now? Because I don't want to. Okay, hold on, wait. First, as Edward already said, okay, do not click on ads, just in general. Okay,
yeah.
If you happen to see an ad and it is something you like, just look at it and then open a new browser window
and go to
Google and find it. Yes, because 90% of the time, if you see an ad, they have a massive marketing budget behind them, and sometimes they even don't. Like sometimes even those just scam artist websites do that. I've searched for gaming hardware, and I remember the one time this one website popped up, and I was like, no, these prices are too good to be true. So I did a little bit of sleuthing. I say sleuthing. I mean, I just used common sense and just looked up the company some more, and yeah, they were totally illegitimate. It was, and of course, when something is too good to be true, for the most part, it is too good to be true.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So don't be clicking on them ads unless you want to be injected, and not in the good way, with some malicious code. Now, speaking of injections, that was quite funny. We were speaking a lot about the male phallus and so on and so forth. But this week I see Edward has something for the veg. It's about damn time. Yes. I've missed
this. So a few weeks ago, we spoke about the arc wave, which is this phenomenal, new, mind-blowing, mind-bending sex toy for men, okay? Which you put in your peen and it uses airwaves to jerk you off.
We are still thinking about possibly getting one for review.
For review, yes. So, turns out that there is a female one as well. Not by the same company and not by the same people, but it's called the Ose or the Osa, or I don't know how you pronounce that word, but it's OSE with the.
Where's it made from?
I couldn't find the company name.
Ose.
In my
Ose.
Ose. I think it's a Canadian company. The bit that I did manage to find. But yeah, so this is, it might sound familiar to some of you listening. This is the device, the sex toy that was banned from CES last year because it was.
I didn't know about that.
It was quote unquote too obscene to show on the stage.
What? No.
Yes. Apparently, you're not allowed to show sex toys at CES.
Why?
I don't know. No one ever said.
Told why? Is otherwise. It not a consumer electronics show? Come on. If this is not a consumer product, what is?
The worst part, okay, so a bit of context for this banning. They were never told they're not allowed to showcase. They had their plans and everything, and then basically right up to release, right up to launch of CES, they were told, sorry, you can't anymore.
Look, as always, we always link to the stuff. And I'm looking at it right now, and I'm like, how does this look bad? This looks amazing.
It looks like a normal dildo, more than anything.
Yeah, pretty much. The O's. Is it O's?
The O's or the Ose, or I think
we'll
it's
have to
Ose.
figure out how to do this. Okay.
Yeah, and then so basically, it's just a fancy dildo. It has no vibration function, so it's not a vibrator.
What?
But
you're now disappointing me. I thought
no.
Had...
it has all the fancies, just not the basic ass vibration. Because it is designed to draw out blended orgasms, I say in quotes, which are orgasms which stimulate the G-spot as well as the clitoris. It has a
Ooh.
two-pronged design, if you see the picture, with basically a bulb at the one end and the long massager in the other, which is
Okay.
many dildos look like that.
Yes, yes.
But how it works exactly is still a mystery because the creators, they don't want to tell us all the trade secrets of it. All we do
Now
know,
I'm
however,
so intrigued.
yeah, so what we do know is that it uses, I quote again, micro robotics, and airflow, thumping, and come hither motions in order to
Listen.
get these vibrations going.
These are all marketing terms, okay?
Yes, I think so.
For a fancy dildo. That's all that it
Pretty
is.
much. Yeah, it sounds like it uses
Come hither
airwaves.
mode. I mean, really?
Yeah, it sounds like it basically the airwaves and the bulb. It sounds like it sends out airwaves while the massager moves. Essentially,
All right.
I think
Okay.
that's all it does. Now, it's said to be a holistic sex toy, according to all these press releases I
now
found
it's
online.
holistic as well. Tell me,
Yeah.
how is this more holistic than just a normal silicone one?
I don't know, but apparently it's amazing. Okay, because it uses again, I quote, up-to-date understanding of the anatomy. Now, the reason I say that in air quotes is because I found a few reviews of this device, and it seems like it has no understanding of the human anatomy, which is surprising to say the least, but I digress. I'll get to that in a bit.
So this is what I wanted to say. You know, there's always two ways when something is a mystery. Okay, either it's a mystery because it's going to blow your mind, or it's a mystery because it's crap. It's always one of the two.
It's always one of the two. Never something else. And now the thing is, the Ose seems to have a very, very steep learning curve. Because essentially what happened is...
Fail.
Yeah.
Sorry, you've really...
Sex toys shouldn't have learning curves.
It should just be, like, not even plug and play. I mean, you're telling me this shouldn't even be plug and play, right? But I mean, you shouldn't have to learn how to use this. It should just be self-explanatory. Otherwise, you've
exactly.
See, again, this is this mystery that I was talking about. You know what this sounds like? All of this sounds like vaporware.
Yeah, almost. It does. It actually does. Like the micro robotics. It's all just vaporware. Excuse me. So, as we all know, the Arcwave is easy. You put your thing in, you make it size correctly, and you press a button, and it does the job for you.
Yeah.
This one you have to maneuver. This one comes with a 25-minute consultation to teach you how it works.
No.
Yeah.
Mm-mm.
It's
this is
surprising.
This has got failure written all over it. You know, this is why Apple is such a successful company. I know it's weird to talk about Apple when we're talking about these kinds of intimate toys, but the fact of the matter is, Apple devices are easy to use. Hell, me too. Let me tell you, it would be the easiest sex toy ever to use.
It'll be a solid stainless steel dildo.
No, you take it out, and Apple will tell you that it has like some new diamond coating, and the metal is fully recycled from the moon, and blah 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 blah. And as Edward is telling you right now, it would just be like a solid metal dildo. And let me tell you, you'd be singing its praises. Why? Because it works.
Yeah, because it works. Yeah. Try it and
easy
test
to
it.
use. There's no guessing at how it functions. You just put it in and you go.
Okay, so to be fair, the creators of the Ose did try to make it as generalized as possible. They say they took the data from 200 women. They surveyed these women, got their distances from the G-spots to the clitorises, inside and out, and all the jazz, in order to make the ideal size device. Now, 200 women is not a good representation of the global populace. Let's be real.
Yeah.
And turns out that, especially not for critics, because when it comes to reviewing this thing, I found a mixed bag. I
Oh,
found
please! I hope you collated some of the best.
I only stuck to one specific review,
Yeah,
which was the most detailed.
yeah.
But basically, again, there's two camps. There's people that, or rather, ladies that absolutely loved the device, and ladies that absolutely hated it. Now, Jess Joho from Mashable, she reviewed the device. I like
Oh,
all her
okay,
content, and turns
okay.
out I never even knew she reviewed it last year already, but I found her review and it was
And
fascinating. She says it sucks. Um, Basically, the
no
biggest
surprises
issue,
there, Edward. No
the,
surprises. Okay.
the biggest issue for Jess is that essentially the learning curve is so steep that the struggle to get it uh, stimulating in the first place just puts you out of the mood.
Yeah,
And she
but of
says,
course.
and the ideal size device the Oze is meant to be turned out to be either too big or too small for her because she had to contort her body in ways that ended up being painful.
You
Um,
see,
and
again, this is what I'm saying. This is purely from. Do you know why this didn't work? Do you know why this didn't work?
why?
Because men made it.
I don't know. Apparently,
I'm telling you. Look. I don't want to throw our gender under the bus, okay? But seriously, what are you doing developing a woman's sex toy? That is a woman's job, okay?
yeah,
Ain't no man no vagina as well as a woman.
that's actually very
I'm
true.
sorry. It's
But
the
because
truth.
the founder of the Oza is a woman by the name of Laura Haddock. But that's all I know about the company. I bet you're 100% correct. I think men made this.
Can I
And
give you a really interesting tidbit?
what?
So, do you know that bras were developed by men?
But by the Victorian Secret guys, weren't they? Wasn't it?
No. So, well, I mean, I don't know the exact history, but all I do
Yeah.
know is that brassieres, because it was very much a French thing, were developed by men. And even today, some of the biggest bra companies are run by men and have men on the team to design these products instead of
Woman.
women. You see, and do you know that that also extends to high heels?
Really?
Did you know that?
To high heels?
To high heels as well. All of
Wow.
these beauty, like especially from a Western ideal, right? If you see somebody with, their breasts pushed up and they're in high heels, it's attractive. Those are man-made, literally.
Wow.
Those were not developed by ladies. So, I actually had a very, very interesting discussion with a very good friend of mine earlier this year. And she was actually talking to me about it because we were talking about something else and we went onto that topic and she just said, it's one of the most relieving things at the end of the workday is to take off the bra.
That's
and
sad.
it's just, exactly. And then we launched into this very, interesting discussion about, brassieres and so on and so forth. And I was like, but don't ladies design them? And then that's actually when she went into the whole thing because obviously she's done the research and she was quite passionate about it. And she actually did find a lady owned and designed bra company. I've forgotten the name now. But yeah, it's not. It's man made. And this is why, for the most part, they're actually so uncomfortable.
Wow, that's fascinating, actually.
It's crazy. It's crazy. Anyway,
and
so
that explains.
this is why, like when you were telling me just now about these guys that were doing this, I'm like, of course it's going to be a crap product.
Exactly.
Like, what are you doing? You can't. It's anyway. That's
yeah. The thing is, the worst part of it all is this thing costs $300 a pop.
Listen, daylight robbery.
That's already $100 more than the Arcwave.
Jeez, why? You see, this whole thing smells of vaporware. It's these people
pretty much.
that are using buzzwords and terminology to create an Apple of products, which is very anti-Apple because it's so complicated. It's the Android. It's the Android of products. It's a Samsung. There we go. The Samsung of sex toys because
the Samsung.
it's so complicated to use if you aren't already an Android user, and overpriced for what it is.
Yep, it's bad. It actually reminds me of a movie
That's
called
ridiculous.
Kinky Boots, which is a family movie, but it's about a drag queen who he can't wear normal stilettos. So what he goes and found this facility where he builds his own boots with thick soles, and he calls this Kinky Boots, and it turns out to be a huge business success. It's a cool family movie.
You're telling me that this family movie is based on another man that created more apparel for women that they don't need.
For big women. It's about a man who identifies as a female.
Okay, fair enough.
Who builds
I didn't know that
soles.
aspect of it. I haven't seen the movie, so I just thought that it was just some dude that was just randomly. Okay,
no, it's
right
a very
then.
good movie.
Okay.
It's a good movie.
No. Look. That makes sense. If it is a transsexual individual and they do identify with being a woman, then that's fine. That I'm okay with. But it's just I don't know. This whole thing it smells fishy, and a part of me really wants to get one, just because But like this is just it's ridiculous in many respects. I mean really, jeez. Well, do you know what's not ridiculous, Edward? The Xbox Series X, which launches next week.
There we go.
If you want a product that actually works and works as advertised, and you enjoy gaming, that should be on your list for Christmas.
Yeah.
If you can find one, because they're sold out.
Yeah.
I think that's the end of NSFW. Actually, ladies and gentlemen, we did have more content. And I must apologize in advance for having rushed through this episode, but we are 100% dealing with very, very strict embargoes, and we have a lot of work that we just need to get done. But at the same time, we love Gedel and we want Gedel to be done. We don't want it to just go by the wayside. We don't want it delayed. We don't want to not do it. So we've done what we could do for this week. And with that said, assuming Edward can hear me, I just want to say also, we do apologize for our audio last week. And we're also, I'm just going to preemptively apologize for whatever issues we may have this week, because you guys can't see it, but there is incredible delay between the two of us right now. And we're trying our best to get it to work. So if it does seem a bit disjointed, that's the reason. Yeah. But other than that, Edward, it's as always, it's a pleasure. I'm looking forward to hopefully being a little bit more rested for next week's episode.
You should be, hopefully, because next week you might have something else to video.
About that, I don't actually have an update, but I was speaking to somebody else who is also possibly on the list, and they also don't know what's going on. So it's a wonderful space to be in.
Yay! What a wonderful time.
But, if it happens, you guys will know. In addition to that, I can't believe it. It's going to be our big 40. So we've got to have some cool stuff going. We've got to have some cool stuff going for next week. Also,
can be done.
Edward and I have discussed this. We're most likely going to do, I think, 45 episodes for this year. And then we're going to go on a well-deserved break. We were possibly considering ending on 40, but there's just so much going on, so much to talk about, that we don't want to miss out or let you all miss out. That's basically it. We want to keep talking to everybody about all the cool things that are happening in our, especially in the next couple of weeks. It's next gen. Next gen is here. So there's going to be a lot of cool stuff happening in the next couple of weeks. But yeah, just putting it out there that we will be stopping for this year at episode 45. And then, of course, I know I'm being preemptive now, but stay tuned to our socials in the future for when we come back in 2021.
Yeah.
Yeah. And as always, it's lovely to hear from those of you who still communicate with us. Y'all know who you are. It's always a pleasure to see the numbers, to hear from people. I know we haven't had much on our socials recently, but genuinely speaking, we have just been swamped. It's, we are only a two-man team at Vamers and also at Gedel, so we try our best to get as much done as possible. And the thing is, when you're only two people and you can't offload work to anybody else, it means that some things rather unfortunately get left behind. And that unfortunately was our socials for the last week.
Yeah, it was.
Which hopefully will come out in the next week. So we'll see. But with that in mind, thank you so much for listening. Edward, it's always wonderful to speak with you. And from my side to all of you, I look forward to seeing you all again next week. Ciao for now.
Bye.